maybe some of the biggest news of the entire day, and a real just blow to their season and to a team that was really enjoyable to watch recently, and that is Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles reportedly, and he is going to miss the rest of the year.
Yep.
This has implications on several different levels.
Yep.
The Vikings now are left with this strange decision that they're going to have to make about what they want out of their year. A couple weeks ago, it seemed like they were going to be sellers. Seemed like Daniel Hunter was likely going to be on the move for the right price. Vikings knew they could potentially take a step back this year. All the breaks that they got last season, they weren't going to happen again. The luck had swung all the way back, the pendulum. But string a couple wins together, offense starts playing really well. Maybe we won't sell off, and we'll just kind of see this through.
Yeah.
Now Cousins goes down, and I have no idea what they're thinking about themselves, because you have Nick Mullins, who's hurt right now, as your backup. And then you have Jaron Hall, who's a 5th-round rookie, also on the roster. So now what do you do with the quarterback position? Do you still feel like without Kirk Cousins, you could be competitive enough in the NFC that it's worth trying to go find an answer outside of the building? Or was the way that Kirk Cousins was playing so central to why you were competitive that now it probably just makes more sense to say, this is supposed to be the reset year anyway. We'll play it out with what we've got. If we have to lose a bunch of games this year, there's an understandable reason why. Let's stay on our timeline. Let's not be deterred. If I had to guess, I think it's the latter.
Yes. I feel like they had the tough decision made for them. And that is because of the severity of the injury with Cousins. That kind of helps bring some clarity. That's an Achilles, or reported, as opposed to maybe a dislocated thumb or something of that sort, or it's a 4-week injury, a high ankle sprain, something where it's like, hey, whether we can weather the ship for maybe a month and get back right and go with that. So I think because of the severity of the injury and what your other options are, it's not, Jaron Hall is, he's a 25-year-old rookie. He's day 320. He does solid things, but it's not like he's a 2nd-round guy of the future that you drafted to sit behind Cousins that you want to give reps
as
to.
a dice roll. It's we don't have a quarterback in the future. Yep. We might as well get a lottery ticket out of it. See how it works.
Yeah. A cheap backup's not bad either, but it's not just a guy that
always be developing someone, I think, is why you draft a guy like that.
So you don't have Tommy DeVito. And that is like, honestly, that's why you do that. But I think that they, again, because of the severity of the injury, this decision that would have been so tough they can have some clarity that they can be a seller. Even if this team that I thought was really doing some nice things, especially on offense, Cousins was doing so much. Like he was playing really good ball. The run game has been,
he was operating at the line of scrimmage, everything that they had put on him. Again, central to their success was his experience and his time in this system. Now that gets completely erased. Even if you go out, let's say they say, we want to win. Can we go trade for Ryan Tannehill right now? That's not going to happen. But even if that was a hypothetical, so much of what they were was based on Kirk being in this offense for a year and a half. So I just don't think there's any way that you can really replicate that. No. The only move that is potentially interesting just as an idea is trading for Trey Lance. And the only reason I throw that out there is because they were considering doing it in the spring. That has been reported. They were looking at him. They couldn't get everybody on board because I think it was about, let's see this through with Kirk, right? Let's see this through with Kirk. Let's see how this year goes. So if you go get a Trey Lance, he's a better option potentially in the short term than any of the other players that you could acquire. And if it works out, you are potentially giving yourself a shot at the next quarterback without having to worry about how this draft unfolds. That's the only reason it's even arguable to me. I definitely do not think it happens.
No, I don't think so either, especially just Cowboys too. And I think they're the real reason, or a big reason of why the Cowboys went for Trey Lance, was Dak insurance in case he goes down for a game or two or playoff stretch. So it gives you a fight. What you want, and especially how the Cowboys play. I totally get that. They are in the season. They are all in. For a team that's more, I also want to bring up too, is that, Dane and I did a show on this last week on Prospects and Pros, was, the QB3, there is a lot of names up there, but how high it is, in my mind, is not a first rounder right now. There's not a guy that I feel comfortable that is that, we pick him at 12 after Caleb and Drake go 1-2 or 1-2-3 or someone like that. Caleb Williams and Drake May. Caleb Williams from USC, Drake May from North Carolina, both very good prospects. So the QB3 thing is like, if it's a 2-horse race, what is the answer for the new quarterback, the new guy you build around? Then you might go into purgatory. But again, Kirk Cousins is an Achilles. It's not something you come back from 6 weeks or 6 months. It's an Achilles. It's very major. So I just think it's a very interesting situation, but are they bad enough to get all the way to the bottom there that you would need to, or can they get creative enough to find this next quarterback to bridge them to the future? That's what I'm really curious what they do.
Yeah, it's going to be a situation worth watching. I don't know how bad they're going to be without Kirk Cousins. I think they have a chance to be pretty bad without him, again, because of how central he was. And if they become sellers and they have another kind of purge of talent here over the next couple of days because they understand where they are. On the Kirk Cousins front, this is brutal.
Fun. Oh, contract year. Oh.
Because there are teams, and we're going to talk about a team in a second here, the fit for him that I kept kind of coming back to if the Ritter thing doesn't work out. Like Atlanta, just drop them in. And they're the way that he was playing this season, there was going to be a real Kirk Cousins market. I mean, think about what Derek Carr got paid this offseason by the Saints. Kirk Cousins is playing at a much higher level than Derek Carr was last year for the Raiders, and Derek Carr made $40 million a year. Kirk Cousins is going to cash in this offseason from somebody. Somebody was going to pay him. Now that becomes much more complicated, which it just sucks. I mean, he's playing so well. He deserved to be rewarded for the way that he was playing.
This team was awesome to watch this last month, and the wins started happening. But like every underlying metric I was looking, I was like, man, they're moving the ball. When I watch them, they look okay. They're explosive. The Addison stuff's working out. They're sprinkling Hawkinson. The run game looks great. I would say great, but much improved, but it looks good.
Much
better. And again, Cousins was being a great trigger man, and he wasn't having, he had a couple, the fluky turnover against the Chargers at the end of the game, but it wasn't as much of that kind of bonehead Kirk that we see sometimes pop up at the worst moments. He had a couple, but it's not as much. And I think that's why it makes him seem just even more explosive, a little better weapons. But even the game against the 49ers without Justin Jefferson, you saw Kirk Cousins, like you saw him controlling a game.
Played some of the best ball of his career. Non-negotiable.
And every coach loves him because he's going to operate the system perfectly. So if you design good stuff, it's going to look really good. And he's going to have a market, but it is interesting because of this injury. And we're going to be talking about so much Achilles stuff in the next 9 months between him and Rodgers. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous.
Brandon Thorne, covers the offensive line better than anybody. It's his corner. He does a great job with it. He was on with you and Dane a couple weeks ago on Prospects to Pros. He was mentioning that Kirk is just so good for offensive linemen. He gets to the same point in his drop every single time. It gets rid of the ball quickly. So that's the type of stuff we're talking about here, is that other elements of who you are offensively just start to erode a little bit, even if you drop someone else in there who is a workable quarterback. So it's a tough blow. I mean, there's really just no coming back from it this year, and it'll be influential potentially on what their future plans look like.